Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Hunters Gathering. I'm your producer and host, Markia McCarty, and we are together with Roll20Con in 2020. So this is going to be a really good conversation that we're going to have today. For those of you that are only experiencing Hunters Gathering for the first time, we are a very chill, behind the scenes look at not just only the games that we produce here at Hunters Entertainment, but also just games in general. We're talking game design, art design, music, just everything that happens. So, with the conversation that we'll be having for today's show is going to be two parts. Our first part is going to be Kickstarter do's and don'ts, what we've learned here at Hunters Entertainment and the wisdom that we'll give you about our journey and where we're going in the future. And then the second half is going to be the future of Outbreak Strain series. So we'll be talking about some of our supplementals that we have coming up, and then some that might be coming up even further in the future after that. So, all this perfect Halloween stuff is what's going to be happening today. But really quick, before I go ahead into introducing our guests and everything that we have for our Kickstarter conversation, I just wanted to let you know that we are not just Fridays here at Hunters Entertainment, for Hunters Gathering, which 6 p.m. PT every Friday. We also have a ongoing campaign that we run on Tuesdays, and that's with Hunters Presents, also at 6 p.m. PT. And with that, right now we are, perfect for Halloween in general. We have an outbreak campaign going on, and it is a lot. But one of the things that we have going on with this outbreak campaign is that we also have a very excellent giveaway. So I do recommend going ahead and checking that out on Tuesdays. But just so that you know, it is a Gleam giveaway, and I actually can announce the winner of our first Tuesday night Hunters Presents Outbreak Undead giveaway. So the winner of an Outbreak Undead Survivor's Guide, Game Master's Guide, and Strain Series Zombie PDF bundle is, drum roll, it is Josh from Wolverhampton, England. So congratulations, my person. You will be contacted by us, or you can go ahead and get in contact with Alex, our community guy. But yeah, you're our first winner. So, and for those that are in our chat room right now, and hello, everyone. We are going to have gathering giveaways as well. So announcing right now that we have a new giveaway that will be, it's an Alice is Missing Roll20 code and PDF, because guess what? We're at Roll20Con right now, so it makes sense, right? So we will be announcing the winner of that next Friday. So if you want to know how to enter, please go to huntersentertainment.com/giveaway, and all of the details that you could possibly want to know will be there for you. And I really am looking forward to announcing your name next Friday. So, but you got to enter to win. So just really quickly, for those of you that are interested in merch, want you to know that we have snapback hats that are up in our merch store right now. We only tend to have particular merch up for about a week at a time. So you only have a couple of days if you want to be able to get these snapback hats. It's Outbreak Undead, Your Zombie Survival Plan Will Fail merch, which, sorry to tell you, but your zombie plan will fail. It kind of just happens. It's that thing. So you have 2 days left to be able to get that merch, and you can find that at huntersentertainment.com/merch. So as for Roll20Con, we're not just doing this special edition of Hunters Gathering. We will also be, of course, what do we do here at Hunters Entertainment? We play games. So yes, we will be doing that for you, with you, while we're like sobbing in our chairs, because we will be doing Outbreak Undead, and our GM will be co-founder of Hunters Entertainment, Ivan Van Norman. So he will be killing some of your favorite people. That will be tomorrow, 6 p.m. PT, where it will be yes, an Outbreak Undead live play. And we're going to get into what particular type of live play it will be later on in our segment. And then for Sunday, we will be doing Alice is Missing. So, and that will be facilitated by the creator of Alice is Missing, Spencer Stark. So look for that this Sunday, 6 p.m. PT. So that'll be this Saturday, October 24th, which is also my mom's birthday. Isn't that awesome? And then also Sunday, October 25th. So we really are looking forward to seeing you there. So let's go ahead and get into our conversation, which is Kickstarter's Do's and Don'ts, Hunters Entertainment Edition. And I have some really awesome guests that are going to be just sharing their woes and sharing their wins with all of us. So if you can help me welcome. We have Alex, our community guy, Alex Hillman, also our project manager, Alex. Thank you so much for coming to the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me on again. It's always a pleasure.
I know we just nerd out. It's just a fun old good time. And then also welcoming to the show, Christian Shelton, Hunters Entertainment's marketing coordinator. Hey, Christian.
Hey, how's it going? It's a pleasure to be on. I'm glad to finally be on this side of the camera.
I know, this is wondrous. I'm so glad that you and your lustrous beard could make it with us tonight.
Thank you. Maybe later on my hair will come down. We'll see.
Oh, okay. Okay. And chat, I'm gonna be completely serious. You have to be like, hey, Christian, let down your hair. You have to, because this man's got like locks that have their own wind. And then
basically
of course,
the Rapunzel.
And then of course, last but certainly not least, we have head of development and also co-founder of Hunters Entertainment, Christopher J. Della Rosa. Hello, Chris. Thanks so much for making it tonight.
Oh, hello. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. You're like you're braving a very wintry night. To be able to, you could have sat with some mulled wine and playing Skyrim, but instead you are sharing your wisdom with us tonight, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our conversation. So obviously with Hunters Entertainment, there have been a bevy of projects and, 10 years of history thus far. So there was a lot for us to be able to choose from for this conversation. So we're just going to do a few of our projects, but of course, let's go ahead and start off with the one that might have given us the most growing pains from the start. And of course, I'm talking about, well, actually, Chris, would you like to tell us about the first Kickstarter with Hunters Entertainment? I'm sorry, was it the very first one, Game, in 2013?
I don't believe that was the first one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Outbreak Deep Space was the first one. Was that?
No, yeah, Deep Space was actually a year later there. It was 2014, yeah. And I think it was 2013 on Game.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. So
2013, and then we will be talking about Outbreak at 2014 after.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, they all kind of blurs together for me. I'm sorry to say.
Well, can you lay out what Game was first? Like, what was the concept of it, and then we'll get into the Kickstarter of it.
Yeah, Game was an inside joke that we thought would be funny enough to make into a game. That clearly wasn't the case, because it ended up not being a successful Kickstarter. Now, that being said, we ended up publishing it later on as part of a free RPG day. So it did get made. It just didn't get made the way we thought it was going to. So I mean, the origins of it are pretty murky, but basically the rules were you roll dice and you yell at each other. And I'm trying, and honestly, that was actually more or less what the rules are. There is a very tenuous, like you basically, if you rolled like a 6, would have, you had like a special face on it. Then you basically made up a rule that was continuous from then on out. And so basically the game became like trying to manage all these rules that came out throughout playing. And then basically it's just supposed to make every game unplayable, really. It's just meant to be, it's a very destructive game by design.
It sounds like chaos, and I'm actually kind of interested. 2020 has been a heck of a year. I kind of enjoy that yourself and the other co-founders of Hunters Entertainment being like, you know what? We're gonna roll some dice, we're gonna drink, we're gonna make up rules.
That was pretty much that's how it was. The English, that was fairly early on because right now Kickstarter is kind of a science really. You can kind of figure out what actually works as far as like release dates go and what kind of marketing you can do. We didn't really know any of that at that point in time. So we're just kind of throwing it on the wall and see if it stuck. And in that particular instance, it didn't. Like I said, it did get made eventually, but nothing the way we thought it was going to. And so it was just a kind of an experiment. Thankfully, it was one that didn't cost us a whole lot of trial and error. It was just a good kind of something with training wheels on it, which helped us out quite a lot in the early days.
Okay. Is there any advice that you could give with someone that's also trying to start with an early version Kickstarter type of a thing like that? Like maybe be like, hey, here's something I'm glad that we did, and here's something I'm glad we're not going to do again.
It's the same advice I would give for game design in general, which is do your market research first, because we did something because we thought it was a funny joke among our friends, and it was a funny joke among our friends, but it didn't translate into a wider audience, and because the market wasn't there. And so we made something thinking the market was there and it wasn't. That's nothing to say that we couldn't have, if we were to do it today, we'd have figured out how to do it better. It's the same thing. It's just not the same thing as saying that, but we didn't do anything like that, because when we did Outbreak, the first edition, we did a ton of market research, and because we were very, very nervous about it, and we didn't want to we were putting our own money on the line. This is before Kickstarter was even a thing. In fact, this is even before Square was even a thing. We had to go to a merchant transaction place to be able to take credit cards on the convention floor. So we were very cautious, and we threw that caution to the wind for game. And I would say, as a piece of advice, just to not be that reckless when you're doing research. Like, does the market want your product, or doesn't it? And if it's something that you like and you want to make anyway, fine. Print on demand's a thing now, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be a big thing that people are going to want to buy.
Absolutely. That sounds like really good advice to me. So, but yeah. And also the both of you feel free to jump into the conversation from a gamers or backer, perspective with any of this. Cause I do know, for just like a behind the scenes look at things, after a lot of us learned that game was something that had been created by Hunters Entertainment, we did hunt it down on Amazon and ended up buying like the last 2 copies of it. So yeah,
I think it was the last 3. It was myself, JB, and Knox actually managed to snag the last copies that seemed to be in existence of the game. So I should have brought that down with me. I could have shown it off.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, the internet is a big place. If you want to find game, I'm more than certain that you definitely can. But as for this conversation, we are going to move forward into the next year, after game had gone up on Kickstarter, because you brought it up in conversation before. So Outbreak Deep Space in 2014. So with this, actually, before we start this conversation, how about we show the Kickstarter trailer for Outbreak Deep Space. Remember, this was made in 2014, and then we will go ahead and have a conversation about the things learned and the things that were pulled into the future for future Kickstarter campaigns. Okay, so yes, keep in mind that is Outbreak Deep Space from 2014 Kickstarter campaign. Gentlemen, go ahead and share your impressions with this. And also, I want to remind you, be kind to yourselves. Okay. I will not have you talking bad about my friends. All right.
Well, I mean, for me, like the one thing that I can tell is that, I mean, we were working on lower res video for doing things up on the internet back in 2014 than we are today. That's for darn sure.
Darn sure.
That was much lower res than stuff that we do now.
Well,
But
technology of that time is not something that you can control, and that's not something that
yeah,
we would
No.
really be able to control, that people can control in a Kickstarter sense. So go ahead and I know that Chris, you were saying something about the first artwork for Outbreak was within this video.
Yeah, it's actually one of the ones, and even to this day, it holds up as ones I actually kind of like, which is rare because I usually despise the work I paint. But it's the one when everyone's rappelling down the shaft that's been opened up by like the clamp. For some reason, the concept and the design came together so well. I thought, oh, I could just do this for the rest of the game. The problem was I'm not that good of a painter, so it didn't really work consistently. Now, the good thing is that we actually got some decent artists for this, and there wasn't too much of it in that. I think we got it after we cut that video, unfortunately. There were a few examples of it, but I think the ones that ended up making it into the book were some of the best art we've ever published. The problem was the game it was a proto second edition, and it shows. So the game had some kinks that needed work out of it. It worked for the setting, but it was a little bit too complex for what it was. But yeah, a lot of that stuff is just walking down memory lane, seeing what we were able to get away with, or what we probably should have second guessed ourselves on. Is always you can do that all day long.
Okay. Well, in Kickstarter terms, do you remember some of the rewards that were offered, or maybe something with the game that people would have backed? Because I believe this project ended up being funded.
Yeah, this one got funded.
Mhm.
We had reference cards, we had map tiles, we had the book. I think the only thing we didn't do was part of our normal spreads. We didn't do a GM screen. That never came up. We've done that for other games since.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, that started because we were doing that for before we had a lot of card printers, so we did that for print on demand. So yeah, there's a few details about that at Kickstarter I remember, but basically the rewards were very, very, very narrow because which is after licking our wounds from game, we had to kind of assess what we could get away with, what we could actually do on time, because there's another consideration for this one why the time crunch was so much, because now we have it when it's done. We'll have it done on its own time. We keep deadlines, but we're not as like we give ourselves more leeway. But this one needed to be done to reach Gen Con, because back at the time this was made, if we didn't have a new thing at Gen Con, we were sunk for quite a while. It would hurt us down the road. So we absolutely needed to hit a certain deadline, and everything kind of was, we had significant crunch at the end. And unfortunately, that it did show in a lot of the way the book was written and how it was edited, and all that sort of thing. So I don't know if this answers your question. I kind of meandered into stuff about Outbreak Deep Space territory, but I think those rewards were basically like character sheets, tiles. We had dice. I believe we had dice made for that too. And yeah, it was pretty simple, all things considered. It was very low key when it comes to a rewards thing.
yeah. I will say that was the first time that the kind of dice pool dice that we did custom for the Outbreak lines actually came up. That was the first time that you'd actually be able to get them on the consumer side of things, without just kind of making your own pools, which is generally what you do normally. But yeah, that was the first time those came up. They've been on other projects since, including second edition. So
Okay, excellent. So what I'm hearing then is it sounds like from just in that year you learned some lessons of what would be good to conserve resources a little bit more when it went into the next Kickstarter. Do I have that correct?
It just understanding our limitations as a developer at the time was our takeaway from that. Yeah. So that's kind of how we see it.
Okay, excellent. I like to, I mean, I know y'all like to rag on yourselves, but I actually liked a number of elements within, you know, that Kickstarter video. I mean, you had a lot of really good buzzwords to me that would like strike me as a backer, like transdimensional. I'm like, wait, what? So it's deep space and we're talking dimensions. So it's like horror and space and dimensions. I mean, those are fun for me. There's a reason why it ended up getting backed. So
Yeah.
because the consumers were there, and you and just that year's time, you obviously turned everything around, and then it just like kept on climbing forward, like with learning that and taking it into the future. In fact, let's go ahead and continue with the pocketbook with 2015.
Hmm.
Would someone like to tell us about that particular Kickstarter and that game?
Yeah, I can kick it off here. So for that, that's actually when I was making the transition from being just a fan of the Hunters Entertainment brand to actually being an employee with the company. So I actually did back that one still as a fan. I think I went in at one of the highest levels that you could go in without going to like, I think we had like a couple pie in the sky ones on there that were like 4-digit type rewards that we occasionally throw on things, not necessarily really honestly expecting anyone to jump for them because it is a high price level, but it was like a $300 reward tier or something like that that I jumped in on at. And yeah, that one was again like it was a more evolved proto version of second edition than the Deep Space book ended up being. So, as well as kind of stripping the sci-fi back out of it and bringing it back to the whole kind of core principle of the Outbreak Undead. And yeah, it was a pretty catchy campaign in my opinion, because it was at the time there weren't a ton of like RPG box products that were available on the market. And so it was kind of like an all-in-one starter kit box that was really intriguing to me. It was going to come with dice and character sheets and a little pocket book and all of that, as well as, and I actually have a couple of them here so we can kind of check out the evolution of how some of these products went.
Yes,
Uh,
show
the
us.
first real cards that we did for the Outbreak Undead line. In the Deep Space video, we saw that we did some for Deep Space already. But this one had the very first Outbreak Undead cards. So we had like our early prototype gear cards. Let me try to get that up on there for you. So these ones, like, we tried to cram everything basically on all the information onto one side of the card, and then the backs just had like a generic backing to them. And if I remember correctly, Chris, because I was transitioning at the time, the intent was for these to be kind of like a random draw thing that the GM could utilize.
Yeah, as an option. Just kind of if you want to have it be like, yeah, you find this, and moving on. I don't think we made enough from that set to really make that a thing, but you still could do it. I mean, there's still ways to make that work. But that was the thinking behind it, yeah.
And we did a similar design too for character cards. So we like, this would be used for players to either just like quick jump in and start playing a character, or the GM could use them as NPCs, of course. And they had the same kind of generic backing to them, so you could kind of even mix and match with the cards, I believe was part of the intent there. So like when the characters were searching a location, you could mix up some items and NPCs that they could potentially stumble across as they started unlocking different levels. And so those were kind of the first versions of those. And obviously we've kind of evolved that product line since then. But we'll get into that in a minute, because I know Chris also has some stuff from the starter kit that he can show off during this as well.
Oh yeah, let me get it. Hold on. So here's the actual thing. I still like it a lot. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite things ever put out. Say what you will about the product inside of it. It's still a pretty box.
Yeah, I'm sure
great.
Christian would agree. Yes.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, no. One of the first times I really interacted with Chris in terms of Hunters Entertainment was due to that box. So the Kickstarter had already been completed, and he had some extra copies of the box. and we used to work together for a marketing company. And I'm a big nerd, and I didn't know that Chris was until we started talking more, and he told me they had a game company and that he made this role-playing game. I'm like, no way. So he brought it in, and I think I bought a copy off of him. I think it's somewhere here. But yeah, no, I will say that the box is definitely really cool, and I'm wondering if that's something that we can do in the future, just for other products.
Oh, I like this. Ideation is happening right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had this is the book, the rule book that came with it. As far as rules that go into, I mean, it's a complete set of rules. There are a few things that changed from this to what ended up becoming a second edition, but not a whole lot. So it still was useful for quite a while. And then we put out something that I like. This here's not me being kind of a nerd in this way, is that this has this the Game Master's Companion we put out later on, which had like a bunch of stuff about biomes and things like that. It made it so it fits in the box too. So so there's a few things that are made to this spec that we're still in development of doing. Is that with our Game Master's Companion, basically table reference and stuff like that. But the idea was everything was you want to play fit in this, and then you're kind of go about your business and play it, or just throw it in a backpack or whatever, and take wherever you wanted to go. Because being somebody who's played plenty of games myself, having 40 pounds of books to take to a session is kind of a drag. But that was the idea behind having them be in such a compact little thing. Again, there's a lot of things here I would have done differently because hindsight bias being 2020. But there's a lot of things about this I happen to like, and I happen to like the cover. I mean, I'm a bit biased, and the cover is a friend of mine. But also just the style, the very the black and white style that we had for Outbreak Undead, the first edition. I felt that this was a very strong visual evolution that still kept the same like black and white, or not so black and white, but like very high contrast look towards it. Because I don't know why I think this works, but it tends to. But yeah, I think there's a lot about this that I happen to like a lot, and it's a shame that I didn't know what I knew then, just as far as the developer goes. And plus the dice were all kind of wacky in there too, because they said they could do dice and they didn't do a very good job of it. They're all like, a lot of them were distorted. So there's a lot of defects in it, which I was really very unhappy about, because what can you do? I mean, there's only so much you can do from your side on your side of the ocean.
Right. Well, what it sounds like, Kickstarter wise, with this is that from where you were before, it seems like there were a number of lessons that you applied to the pocketbook, like such as, it seems like there was a lot of market research that happened to be like, hey, myself as a gamer, what is it that I want? I want to be able to throw everything into something portable, put it in a carrying case, and be able to, take that to my local beer hall, or take it to wherever it is that you end up going with your games. So I know that me as a backer, that would be something that I would want. So I very much, and I like the fact that already Christian's like, yeah, why don't we do that again?
I think we're past the starter box thing. I think what we're doing with that is, if we ever made the box again for it, it would be to carry small format versions of the game. That would be basically smaller, more condensed copies of the books that we've already put out, so that when you go from place to place, you have a table reference. The game's it's a little bit simpler. Doesn't really need quite as many of those things, especially considering you have a few cards to have the things that are really important to you. But it's still helpful. It's a lot of things. Yeah, and you're right. A lot of the things for Kickstarter, we had a much stronger idea as to how you can scale the rewards. One being the way that Alex actually got involved, was that you can make yourself into a character, and that's always been part of Outbreak Undead. So that's always been one of our strongest marketing points. Like, you can make you the person sitting there into a character. And so, well, why don't you just take the next step? We'll just make cards out of them. Just give them the full stat breakdown. They can submit photos, and we can make it. And it was a lot of fun to actually have people submit what they wanted to look like, in their tactical outfits and stuff. But mainly I just want to see what they came up with. And then Alex had a special request, like, hey, I know you said you could do 10 cards. Can you divide it from like 5 people, but 2 each? And I'm like, all right. And this is before like we knew each other, but we went the extra mile for him, because like you said, he did back us at such a high level. It's like, what's the least we can do? Just hear him out. Let's see what we can do for him. But it ended up being really great. Obviously, we got Alex out of it. So But it was also just showing how people were really getting invested in the product, and that was good to see.
Yeah, it sounds like you were really listening to your consumers to be able to then make that Kickstarter in a different way than you had previously, and then to also take that lesson like moving forward. So that seems like a very strong thing to take out of this. And I want to say with our chat room, yeah, if you have any questions, Kickstarter questions that you would like to ask, please go ahead and knock that around in the chat room, and hopefully we're doing pretty good with answering questions that you might have had, but there's always something else that you can ask. And so let's go ahead and do one, two, skip a few and talk about, this year, 2020, with Altered Carbon. And Christian, I would really love to hear your take on this as, marketing coordinator. But first, before we start this particular conversation, let's go ahead and show the trailer for Altered Carbon that was backed and funded within 4 hours this year.
Bay City, Earth, 2384. A world under UN protectorate law, where the mega-rich thrive, and the streets are filled with crime. A time when death is no longer a finality. The cortical stack, a gift from the elders, holds everything that makes you, you. Every memory, every emotion, stored digitally, making immortality a reality. Welcome to the neo-noir cyberpunk world of Altered Carbon, the role-playing game.
We did have a couple of issues with the video for our live play. So, but if you're catching this on VOD, chances are you probably noticed nothing wrong. So, but yeah, for this in particular, Christian, if you could go ahead and start our Altered Carbon conversation with like rewards and Kickstarter. I mean, wow, funded in about 4 hours, and it's like over 1,000% funded, which it ended up being. So yes, go ahead and give us your wisdom.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because I think that even though I wasn't a part of the Outbreak and Dead box Kickstarter, that was kind of a turning point for Hunters Entertainment in terms of Kickstarters. I feel like each one generated more and more backers each campaign. So for this one, we set a goal of $20,000, which we would have been happy, if we hit, because we're like, this is what we need to get it made. But we luckily, blew past that within 4 hours, as you mentioned, and we raised almost $400,000, which is crazy. And I think a lot of that has to do, not only with the fact that this is a licensed product, but I think that the rewards we offered were pretty cool. So we actually really have streamlined our rewards. So if you notice, like the very first thing that you can get is the PDF, followed by the physical version of the book, followed by deluxe. So, the first three rewards are very basic. Anyone landing on the page can see those and know, okay, cool, I want the PDF. Oh, I want the book. Oh, I want the deluxe version. So, keeping it very simple up front. But I think where we really had a lot of fun with this one is actually beyond, the base game. It's funny because we talked about game at the very beginning, and we discussed how, make sure to do your market research, because if people just don't want the product, they're not going to buy it. So I think the cool thing with this one is that, people wanted the product and they, got it. But beyond the base game, which is cool, we had a bunch of rewards beyond that. So we had minis, we had special coins, we had a carrying case. We had the carrying case. Yeah. Now, a lot of people are actually very excited about that one because it's a replica of what the main character has, in the first season of Altered Carbon. And that's looking really good. We actually just pushed out an update today with a prototype picture. So
actually that's I'm kind of in Alex's boat with this because I was a backer first before I ever joined Hunters Entertainment, and y'all got me on the Hello Unicorn carrying case. I was like, I'm obviously going to back this because like Ivan was a friend of mine. I'm like, this is going to be an amazing game no matter what. And then you had the carrying case, and I was like, well, I want to go there.
Yeah, no, it's really sleek. Like, I think that's what we did for this one, was just, we got the base rewards down, but then we added a lot of cool extra things that really just expand the gaming experience. And I know that we're going to be looking to do more of that in the future, but we can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah. So filling out all of these rewards, I mean, that's just easy all the time, right? Like including the Hello Unicorn carrying case is just,
Yeah. So this is
squeezy, right?
if only as easy as squeezing lemons into maybe a cut or something. But no, so fulfillment, this is the first time that I actually did fulfillment on, or helped with fulfillment on a Kickstarter campaign. Because normally I just do marketing for Hunters Entertainment, but for this one, I'm actually interacting with the backers more and collecting their information, doing backer updates. And Alex, I'm going to need you to tag team me on this one, but
yeah.
Whereas some things, are streamlined and worked, we are having delays with some other things, such as, the carrying case, which looks really cool. But if you want to go ahead and talk about, some of the
so I mean, like, obviously we're trying to get it as close to screen accurate as possible, because that's obviously what our backers are going to want to have, while still making sure that we can follow all the protocols and stuff necessary for making that type of product. The big thing with it is obviously it's not the type of product that we do on a regular basis. So there was a lot of learning curve that we actually had to go through with getting this actually put together, and getting to the point where we now, as I do believe JB kind of scrolled a few across the screen of the carrying case, we're to a point now where it's looking really, really good. There's still some things that we want to do. So unfortunately, we don't even have a final just yet even of that one. So the screenshots that we've been able to show here so far of it, those are actually still getting some notes processed on them to get it to its final form. So yeah, there's been a lot of interesting challenges trying to take on products that we don't do as like our core line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know that as a backer, I and not as a employee here or colleague, as a backer, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Because I want to look as good as possible. So I'm personally, if anything out of this year, 2020 has taught me patience. In every way, shape, and form, patience to get a quality product. So with something that Chris was saying earlier with the panel, where it's like doing your marketing research, listening to your consumers, and then all of this where we're talking about portability, having this carrying case where you can put what you want into it, whether it's some altered carbon products or other products that you want to put in there. It's like these things take time, and it sounds like that's one of the things where it's like, this is a do, not a don't when it comes for Kickstarter, is what I'm hearing personally.
And you got to make sure when you have these types of situations, and I'm sure Christian can back me up on this 100%, as well as Chris, because we've all kind of gone through it with the Kickstarter process. When you do run into these kind of hiccups, you've got to be communicative with your backers. Essentially, you want to look at your backer, because Kickstarter, I think a lot of people get the wrong impression and start looking at it as like a pre-order store. And that's not really what it is. It's an investment process. That's what it's always kind of been intended as. So the people who are opting to jump on that product for us during the Kickstarter are investors actually in that. And we are kind of beholden to give them some information and keep them in the loop about what's going on, because they've taken the risk to give us money up front before they even have a product available to have in their hands.
Right. And I'm going to add a little bit to speaking with your customers and the end user. In the case of Altered Carbon, though, there's also the licensor you needed to keep happy too. And in fact, one of the reasons we got it was because, not to pat myself on the back too much, but I was worked on Altered Carbon, the TV show, as part of one of their marketing designers. So I knew their aesthetic. And so when it came to how we did the page, color palette, their style. It was very specific as to what it was. And that's why this looks very light when, because the marketing for it was actually very bright. I don't know if everyone remembers that. Like of course, there's that image of the iconic one of Kovacs like looking over the cityscape. But when you looked over the posters, it was just like a cut. It was them with like a white cement, like a bright cement background. I'm like, okay, so they favored this in their marketing. So when you're talking about, learning how to listen to the people who are involved, you also have to know how to speak to any other partners you have in this. And that means it's almost completely specific to licensed products, but it also helps when you look back at even Deep Space, the videos between the two. Obviously we had intercut stuff from the show. That's it's a big help to have that, because that's not the budget we never would have. But at the same time, the strong
that and the technology is 6 years apart. There's also that.
Very true. But like the through line of a stylistic consistency, because the art we had in Deep Space was kind of all over the place. There was like the photo manipulation, there was the paint overs, there was the straight paintings. Whereas you go to Alter Carbon, it was stuff from the show. It was like composites. It was very, and when you look at the two, the contrast between the two is humongous, because even though in Outbreak Deep Space we didn't have a licensor to be beholden to, we could have benefited from the understanding that if you have a strong brand identity, a strong stylistic consistency, that would have been just as important as, say, doing your due diligence with your licensor to make sure they're happy with the art you produce for their product, or for their license rather. So there's a lot of listening going on just on that end, on that production side of things too.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of active listening has to happen. Okay, so we do have a question from chat from Not Always Weak. This is from our pocketbook conversation. Do you think that having equipment cards makes players think they're limited to what's on the cards, or do you think players have been successful using them as jumping off points for their own ideas? Like, so for me personally, yeah, I see a pre-gen, I'm like, this is a baseline. I'm going to be a circus performer. That's also a DJ. That's also what's on this card. That's me personally. But how do y'all feel, Christian?
Yeah, no, it's funny that you bring that up, because I see it as the same way, as a jumping off point. But that leads me to think of our next project that we're going to be doing, because the character creation is so open-ended. I'm wondering how cards would work. It would have to be like a starting point. There's no way. Yeah.
Oh, Christian, please tell us, what is this next project that we're talking about, that we,
Yeah, so our next Kickstarter will be Ragnarok.
Yes.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm not biased because I work here, but the character creation for that specific game is one of the most open-ended I've ever seen, and it's so much fun. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you want to start talking about that.
Yes. Yeah. So the next Kickstarter that Hunters Entertainment will be doing is Gods of Metal Ragnarok. So this Kickstarter will be happening in 2021. So of course we're just gonna do out of this whole conversation where it's just like, this process has happened, like these things learned, active listening to consumer and everything like that. All of that's coming as a culmination into Ragnarok 2021. So do we want to talk about some of the rewards that we have planned for this? Some things that they can look forward to this Kickstarter that we could actually say right now?
Oh yeah, I don't know what we can and can't say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can cover your back on this one a little bit there.
Thanks.
So while this isn't my project, because while I am a project manager here at Hunters, I don't cover obviously all of our projects. I do have a counterpart, Ben Dunn, who I'm sure you guys have seen on some of our streams here, and then a bunch of other stuff out there. So Ben is going to be actually taking on Ragnarok, but we communicate quite a bit, so I can kind of touch base on some of this stuff. So we will have a double vinyl album that will be coming along with Ragnarok as one of the potential stretch goals there. We can't say who's going to be involved on that just yet, but there's some cool stuff going on with that. Some really, really cool stuff going on with that.
Like, and some rockin' big stuff.
Yeah.
This album.
You guys just wait. You guys gotta just wait, unfortunately, but it's gonna be big when you hear the announcements on that.
Yeah, we're all very surprised because they're talking about the just kind of following along with the the carrying case thing. That's new for us. This is obviously going into the music, going into vinyl, much as producing a vinyl, very new. But we're all about pushing boundaries a little bit here. Just when we got the list back of people who were at least interested in talking, we're like, really? That's cool. We didn't think that was going to work, but hey, but it's a very humbling experience to see that it kind of work out in such a way. Again, we can't tell you which ones because the ink's on the paper yet, but the names you've been discussing are very surprisingly prominent in the industry.
Yeah, and actually, I'll just repeat exactly what your partner and co-founder Ivan Van Norman saying in the chat right now, and he's saying real bands, y'all. This is all caps, like touring bands.
Yeah,
for real. Like seriously, it's no joke what's going on this with. So, and then the really cool part about it is that the album cover itself is actually going to be the GM screen.
I'm so stoked about that.
That is.
I don't know if we can say it or not. That's cool.
Yeah,
we can say it. And it's already been said. So
cool. Perfect.
And we're pretty big on custom dice here at Hunters. It's a fun thing to do, honestly, with the games. At least if there's a reason for it. We don't do it just for absolutely no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But if the game has kind of any give or take to being able to do some custom dice, we do like to do those. And Ragnarok absolutely has some room for some custom dice, and they look amazing. They are so metal, and I love that the game uses D4s just because I think it's such an underutilized dice. It's always looked down upon, and it is the thing in this game. So
the most
we like to
metal
have
dice.
things like remnants of caltrops. Anything that can be used as a weapon at the table, we prefer.
It's so metal, so metal.
I really enjoy how y'all are just like going bigger and bigger with things, but it's like also things that people want. It's, I mean, that sounds cool. I have a collection of vinyls, so having a possibility of having in his words, real bands, y'all, like touring bands, y'all. That's also my GM screen. Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason why I'm also going to be backing this, along with how I backed Altered Carbon.
Yeah, I mean it's the ultimate heavy metal fantasy game. You guys are going to love this project. It's going to be fun.
Excellent. Yeah, I want to thank all of you for like this Kickstarter conversation, because it's good to be able to show people where it's like, hey, we're all growing, we all do growing pains, and we all learn, and we like keep on moving forward with this. And you're always going to do something right at each stage. So stop beating yourself up when something doesn't go the way that you want. Just learn the lesson, and then one day you'll have Ragnarok in 2021. So I mean, with like real bands, y'all. So that's a very big thing. So Alex, can you do like a quick tease for us? Because like our second half of our program for those in our chat right now, we'll be going into the future of Strain series. Specifically, we'll be talking about Chimera and then also Dance Macabre. These are, I mean, and this is a perfect conversation for right now for this like Halloween spooky season.
Oh, yeah.
To just go deep down and dirty and to outbreak in these two very different ways. I'm so excited about this conversation that we're going to have. So Alex, if you could tease like 2 other future Strain series that we have coming up.
I think I could probably do that. So one that I'll go with here is one it's at least on some people's radar already. We made mention of it at the last in-person Gen Con that everyone was able to go to, and we've talked about it on our Discord a bit. So we do have Strain series Deep Space, which is kind of the polar opposite of what Dance Macabre will be, which we'll see a little bit more of that coming up here in just a bit. And then beyond that, I think I'll go ahead and let you guys know about something that you're gonna see a peek of this weekend, just a little bit, to give you a hint about what Ivan's going to be up to with his stream on the weekend here for Roll20Con. we're going to have one called Strain Series The Fog. Now, that one's coming out a ways further down the road. That's why we haven't really publicly mentioned it before this point, really. But that one's coming from the mind of Ivan himself, and it's a different take. It's a different take on the whole system. So I think people are going to be excited for it. So, and that's what the Strain series is for. And we'll talk about that a bunch here in a bit.
I know we are so going to get into that. So, yes. So, everybody that has joined us this far, we hope that you're going to continue with us into the second half of our conversation with chatting all things, future Strain series. But just to remind you, I want to once again congratulate our winner of our. Oh, I keep on changing my screens. I just want to congratulate our winner. That's Josh. From Wolverhampton, England, who won our first giveaway for our Tuesday nights Hunters Presents. Congratulations!
Yeah.
He won Outbreak. They won Outbreak Undead, Survivor's Guide, Game Master's Guide, and Strain Series Zombie PDF bundle. Congrats! And then also to remind everybody that's in chat right now that we will have gatherings giveaways. So go to huntersentertainment.com/giveaway to go ahead and do your chance to win an Alice is Missing Roll20 code and PDF. And we will be announcing the winner on the next Hunters Gathering Live, which is Fridays at 6 p.m. PT. And we actually have something very fun planned for this upcoming gathering. And we'll be able to say more about that to you with our Discord, join our community there. Go ahead and give us a follow, and also go ahead and subscribe. I mean, why not? We do a lot of fun things here. We're always here Tuesday and Friday nights for y'all. And then we're also going to have some one-off campaigns that are going to be coming around the bend as well. So with all of that, thank you so much to our moderators. You are amazing. Thanks so much to our tech wizard, JB Jara. And thank you so much to our guests that have joined us for this this first half. Christian Shelton, our marketing coordinator, Alex Hillman, Alex, the community guy, who's also our project manager, and of course, head of development and co-founder of Hunters Entertainment, Christopher J. Della Rosa. So this has been our Kickstarter conversation. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to get spooky with it and talk about the future of the Strain series. So we shall see all of you in 10 minutes. Until then, thanks so much for joining us here at Hunters Gathering.